wow.
Yeah.
Time's good to some, but not too good to others.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be an in-between. It's either been really good to you or...
No.
Okay.
A lot of the old rockers can still do it, though.
I know. And they're still putting out some of the best material they've ever done.
I know.
Alice Cooper is amazing.
Yeah.
All right. We
Okay,
good to go?
you're
Am I
rolling,
okay
yep.
sitting back like this, or am I okay? Should I lean up?
No, you're fine.
Looks fine, yeah,
I just
looks
want
good.
this to be as casual as we can. All right.
All right.
Let me know when.
You're good?
Hey, it's Camo with the Nashville Access Facebook show, and we're on location today because we get to visit with the cool guests. Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Fortune.
Thank you, Camo. So good to be with you today.
Good to be with you too. This is a real honor to be sitting down with you.
Same. Feelings mutual, my friend.
Man, 23 years with the staff?
Well, it was almost 21 years with the Stout Brothers, and I was there from January 1982 to October the 26th, 2002. And
the new guy.
Yeah, the new. People still, you're the new guy, you know, or you're the little guy on the end. And, but it was we were just talking a little while ago about how fast it went by like that.
Yeah.
And then when I say they've been retired now for 17 years, this will be 17 years this year, people kind of take a big breath and go, no, it can't be. But it went by really fast, and in the last 17 years. So I must have been having a lot of fun, because it was a great time with them. I learned a lot. I got to meet, just about everybody that I wanted to meet, as far as actors, actresses, and people in the music business. All through those years, I got to visit with a couple of presidents along the way. And coming from a little kid in Virginia that grew up there in nowhere, I mean, it was, if you ever saw the Waltons TV show, it's exactly the same place that I grew up. And it was like, I was good friends with Earl Hamner, who was the writer, creator of the Waltons. And we used to exchange stories about, you know, growing up and everything in Virginia. But to go from like being in a little club one night to being with the Stout Brothers the next week, and you know, being on TV shows and doing things, it was just kind of a mind-blowing thing to me as to how it all happened.
When you're in meeting presidents, was it just how did this happen? Am I supposed to be here?
Yeah, because we actually started the DARE program with President Reagan and Mrs. Reagan. And so it took us, you know, to the White House to the Oval Office, sitting around talking about all these things we were going to do to try to get this program going and things, and then going out to LA and doing some shows and big galas that they everybody who was in anybody was there at these things, and you got to talk with and meet with these people. Except I was a big Jimmy Stewart fan, and I always wanted to meet Jimmy Stewart, and I saw him that night out there in LA, the first night. I'm sitting there, and I'm actually seeing Jimmy Stewart. I mean, he's right there in front of me, seeing him with my own eyes, and I didn't have the nerve to go talk to him. I just kind of sat back, said, I'm not going to bother him, you know, because that's just the way it was at the time. I didn't want to bother anybody. And so later on in the night, I had to go to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom, and I'm standing there in the bathroom. Hope I can tell this on it.
Yeah, of course.
But anyway, I'm at the bathroom, and Frank Sinatra comes in. He's standing right next to me, and
wow.
and I'm looking like, he says, well, Jim, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I froze. I said, Frank Sinatra just said my name. And I looked like him, and I hear this voice on the other side of me. Yeah, I don't know. It's a big thing going on out here, and I hope it works. You know, he was talking about, and I look, and it's Jimmy Stewart. So he says Jim, and then I thought he was talking to me.
Yeah.
And so I said, I'm not letting this opportunity go by. So I asked Jimmy Stewart. I said, Mr. Stewart, I've always wanted to meet you. Such a big fan. Can I just shake your hand? And of course, we didn't have phones or anything. He said, well, son, if you don't mind washing it first.
Yeah, the men's room, not the best place to be.
And so I stood there and talked with Frank Sinatra and Jimmy Stewart in the bathroom.
Wow.
We talked about things, and they were saying what a big fan of the Stout Brothers they were, and just kind of, you know, welcomed me to the group and all this stuff, and I just walked out of there in this daze, like, did I just meet Frank Sinatra and Jimmy Stewart in the bathroom? And I mean, it was just something that I'll carry with me forever. And And like I said, I got to meet so many other people that night. Burt Reynolds and Lonnie. So he was dating Lonnie Anderson at the time, and just heard so many stories, and that's things that I'll never forget.
And it's funny because there are people out there saying, "I can't believe I just met Jimmy Fortune."
Well, I've had people say, I almost don't go there with myself, but because when I'm around people, I just always try to be myself. I don't try to be anybody else. And I had this kid one time. We were after a show, and I was talking to people, and this little boy was watching me, and he kept staring at me, and I said, "Son, are you okay?" And he said, "You're just like real people." I said, "Well, so yeah, son, I'm just like everybody else." He said, "I just didn't think you would be like you are." And I said, "Well," I just try to be myself. I don't try to be anybody else. And I love people. And first, I try to make them feel at ease right off the bat. I mean, it's not like, But then I thought about how I felt. I guess he felt the same way I did about Jimmy Stewart and all that, But from where I was from, we used to watch people on TV. We see Hee Haw on TV. We'd get together. My dad, we'd love Hee Haw. We'd watch it all the time. Never dreamed that I'd be on the show one day, and got to do that. And he was a big Gene Autry fan. I got to go out. We went to LA, and my dad loved Gene Autry. I did too. And we always liked the old show, the Green Acres.
Yeah.
Green Acres. And we went to see Gene Autry. He invited us to his house. We were there and talking to him and everything. He let me play his old guitars and stuff, and that was pretty cool. And so he invited us to an Angels game that night. So we went out to his big booth.
He owns the Angels.
Yeah, because he owned the Angels. And I'm sitting there, and Pat Buttram, which is Mr. Haney, he's sitting there, and I'm talking to him. And I'm like, I wish I could get my daddy on the phone to let him know what I'm doing. I'm sitting here talking to Mr. Haney right now, And so those cool moments that were like that that we didn't have these things to really, that's one of the good things about these, that you can actually capture moments right on the spot, But even then, I don't know if I would have tried to do that, because it's just one of those things where you don't like to really bother people. But
it's one thing when you're doing a professional thing together, but when it's they're there just as people, it's
right. Mm-hmm. So those moments are moments that I just can't believe that I got to experience. But for every young kid that's out there today, struggling, trying to make it, you never know if you keep doing what you're doing for the love of it, which is why I did it. I loved what I did, and somehow, some way, even if I never made it, I'd probably still be doing it. If I never made any headway in this business, I'd still be playing music and singing songs to somebody.
And that shows with artists that are like that. And there are some in every genre of music that, whether they were getting paid or not, they just take a guitar in the garage and play. And I think that's what we need more of back in the music business.
Yeah, it's great to be able to make a living at it, because we're all out there, trying to make a living, and that's one of the reasons that we, for our families and everything. But some of the most rewarding moments of my life are the things that I did, that didn't get paid anything for. And but then there were times when I was struggling back in Virginia. I had some of the bands that I was in. We'd play all night, and somewhere in Nowhereville, and didn't make $5 or $6 a piece, and didn't even pay our gas to go where we were. So we were just out there beating the bushes and trying to do something, because you never know who's going to be out there in that audience and who's going to hear you and make a difference. Lou DeWitt happened to be there years ago when I was doing a jam session in 1981.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a jam session one night, and Lou DeWitt happened to be there, and we talked, and we sang a couple songs together, and I sang a bunch of other stuff with my friends, and I thought after that night I met one of my heroes, but I'd probably never hear from him again. And then a few weeks later, right after Christmas that year, I get a call from the Stout Brothers that he was going to have to be out for about 6 months, and he needed somebody to fill in for him, and I was the first name out of his mouth after all those years of him hearing all the different people that he heard. He said, "There's a kid from across the mountain, Jimmy Fortune, if y'all, if he could do the job if you give him a chance." And that's where it all started at. And so I stayed with them until I told them, I said, I'll stay until y'all don't need me anymore. It was temporary at first, and then Lou came back after about 6 months. And then he told me, he said he didn't think he could do it anymore, asked me to do it full time, and I said, I'd be an idiot to turn this down.
Yeah.
And so I didn't, and so if it wasn't for Lou did pass away back in 1990 from his Crohn's disease, is what he had. And he had some kind of botched surgery that didn't really do him any good. And you know, he was the reason, and I always pay tribute to him every night in my shows. I do Flowers on the Wall, which is a song he wrote, and kind of got it all started for the Statler Brothers. And Lou DeWitt was one of the most talented, most wonderful people I've ever known, and I love him, not just for what he did for me, but for what he did for music. He was a great musician, great songwriter, great singer. So whenever I went into the group, I never took his place. I just made a place for myself. He will always have his place.
It's hard to step into big shoes like that.
Yeah, and I never really tried to do that. I just wanted to help them out and help them get to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. And so it was hard at first because there were people who go through the line and they'd kind of pull their paper back, didn't want my autograph, and they'd walk around me and things, and I'd always acknowledge them. I'd say, hey, that's all right, I understand, you know, and because I did understand. But I never wanted to come into the music business that way, to be taking someone else's place. I thought I was helping out at first, and that's kind of the reason I was there. But then it turned into, hey, he's not going to come back, so we need you to stay here and help us. And so that was the reason I did it. But I will say, I think that's the reason it worked, because I think people knew that I was coming in to help them out. Although there's still people that, you know, you're always, you know, measured like, oh, well, you're not quite as good as he was, or he's not quite as good. You always hear that, you know, from everybody, from not everybody, but from different people. That's always going to be that way. But thank God, you know, it's worked, and
well, you came out and scored a pretty big hit with the Statlers, with you in it, and probably anybody named Elizabeth owns the song.
Yeah. Well, that was the first song I ever wrote. You talk about God things in your life. I never had written a song before, and I knew that Lou did. And so I asked him, I said, if I write a song, do y'all record it? And Harold of the group, he said, well, yeah, we'll record it if it's good enough. Yeah. And I thought that was an honest answer. So we were in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And the next day, I took him the song Elizabeth and played it for him. I'd recorded it on this little Walkman. Yeah. I had two of them, and I kind of ping-ponged the voices back and forth. And when I went to play it the next morning, I had the vocal stacked so they could hear the harmonies and everything. And they liked it. They said, it's going to be our first record with you. And it was. It was a third single, and the song was the #1 song.
And they all sat back and said, yeah, he'll work.
Well, I think that those things are God things that you can't explain. Because I'm like, what? I mean, I never had written a song before. How could the
first time out?
Yeah, and sometimes people, I tell these young kids out there that you just need a break. But if you don't keep trying, you know, you only succeed if you just keep going. You know, I call it success. And somebody asked me one time, how do you measure success? I said, well, finding my size in a Goodwill. You know, I mean, you know, that's success. Yeah. And those things that you do because you love them, and you're able to go out and do them every night and make your life work, no matter what. Whether it's you're playing clubs like I was before the Statler Brothers, and I kind of had to work 2 daytime jobs to support my music habit, but I kept doing it. You know, I probably would be dead by now if I didn't keep that up.
You're still a new guy. You can't be dead. You've been pretty busy over the past 17 years. Still putting out music, still out there performing and on the road.
Yeah, I forget how many CDs I've done, and like three DVDs out, and I'm doing a new one. But my new project's called God and Country, which I teamed up with Bill Gaither about 4 years ago.
I think that's your publicist is thinking, get to the album, get to the album.
Yeah, no, it's been a great thing. I did a first album with them was Hits and Hymns album that's done very well in all the markets out there. And then I did another one called Jimmy Fortune Sings the Classics, songs that I grew up on, which everything from Eddie Arnold to the Beatles to Simon and Garfunkel to Ray Price is on that project, and I just love it. I mean, I had so much fun doing it, and it's brought us to this project. It's called God and Country, and this is probably one of my favorites because it's about two of my favorite things: our country and our God, and those things combined. I think it's what we need more of today. And we need God in our country, and that's exactly what this CD does. But I'm very, very proud of it, and of course it's going into all the major markets out there as well. Cracker Barrel has it, and it's going to be a DVD as well.
Excellent.
Working on that, so I'm looking forward to getting. It's already out there and it's doing well. So
yeah, so an interesting mix of songs on there as well.
Yeah, I mean it's everything from God Bless America the Beautiful to Battle Hymn of the Republic to the Battle of New Orleans.
I noticed the Johnny Horton song on
Yeah,
there.
Johnny Horton had to hit on. You haven't heard anybody lately cut that, I can tell you.
No.
But we kind of put a little fresh spin on it, and it's got a kind of a Amos Moses feel about it.
Oh, nice.
And it's just my kids and my grandkids, especially my grandkids, they love it. They want to hear the Battle of New Orleans. They love that song.
Yeah.
So it's funny to hear little kids singing it now. But there's some new things on there called "Meet Me at Arlington," which is a song I wrote with my neighbor, one of my best buddies, Dave Clark. Came to me one day, and he said he just saw this thing on the news. And he taped it. Actually, had it on his phone. It was about this California professor. This kid had come to school with a Marine shirt on, and he was just really putting this kid down for wanting to be a Marine. He wanted to be a Marine because his daddy was a Marine, and telling him how stupid he was, and just all this really bad stuff that he was saying on there. I couldn't believe what I was hearing myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then they asked this Gold Star mother, who had seen it, what she thought about it, and she said, "Well, I wish you could meet me at Arlington." And when she said that, "Meet me at Arlington," we said, "Oh man, that's got to be. We got to write this song." And so we didn't drop it and say we're going to do it tomorrow. We're going to do it. We're going to go in and we're going to write it right now because it's fresh on our mind. And we did it, and then it went on this project, and it's been a very powerful song. Our Gold Star moms, I mean, out there that it's just hard for me to fathom losing a child.
Just let me interrupt for a second. For those that are watching outside of the U.S., Gold Star families are families who have lost a member of the family in battle.
Right. So there are a lot of them that know how that feels. I don't know how that feels because I never lost anyone in my family, but my heart breaks for them, and I know that when I've been to Arlington, I've walked around there, and I just feel the power and the emotion that's in that. When you look at all those stones that are there, and a name and a date, and it's just and a number, and then you actually see.
You're moved just talking about it.
Yeah, it really is. Like I said, going to the Vietnam Memorial and all the memorials that were up there, that was one thing. But when I went to Arlington and saw, it was just overwhelming to me. And you see a child kneeling there by a grave, or two or three of them at one time, and a family. It really got to do something to you to realize that. It's like someone stepping up in front of you. To me, it's like a soldier. To me, it's like a person getting ready to walk out in front of oncoming traffic, and he stops you. This person stops you and says, "No, you stay here. You're not going to do this. I'm going to do it." And literally, it's like them giving their lives for it's sacrifice, total sacrifice. It's like this whole project, this God and country, you know, with what sacrifices that were made for us, you know, through Jesus Christ even, and then He made that ultimate sacrifice for us, and then now our soldiers that do the same, they sacrifice their lives for us. It's all about sacrifice. That, and then I stand there, I sit here, stand on stage every night, reaping the benefits of sacrifice, and I almost feel guilty, you know, that I get to do that. And so every time I get on stage, I thank those who are responsible.
I was watching a show last night on TV, 1969, and a lot of it about the Vietnam War, and they said the one thing the public made a mistake with the Vietnam War was they mixed up the war with the warrior. And you may not agree with the policies of any government, but these guys are off doing their job, and you got to honor them.
Right.
Don't worry about what the government, they're just doing their job.
Right.
They're doing what their bosses tell them to do.
The Vietnam Memorial thing, well, I wrote the song "More Than a Name on the Wall." That was a healing song, and I get vets tell me that all the time. That was a healing song, because a lot of them tell me when we came, they tell me the stories of what happened to them. There were horrible. Some of them lost arms, legs, and just, you know, coming back in wheelchairs and in pieces. And then they would say, "Well, that's not the worst thing that happened." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And well, when we rolled off the airplane, they spit on us.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't believe, but you know, there was so much misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And they were only doing with the same thing that all the other people had done for us, that had fought for all the wars. You know, they were doing what they were told by our country.
Yeah,
and
your
a
job.
lot of times, you know, that's what I hate about it. A lot of things are political, and I hate that about war. I really do. But that doesn't diminish the fact that these boys and girls went there for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, as long as I'm on stage, I will always pay tribute. I will always say thank you, because I want to put my arms around all of them and hug them and hug them and hug them and say thank you, thank you, thank you for what you did for us.
Wow.
You know.
What excites you in country music these days?
Well, you know, I listen to all kinds of music, and as far as the country goes, I would say that I'm a big fan of a lot of the country music that's out there. Mm-hmm. Although I understand things change, you know. Yeah. I'm sure. To me, and I'm just saying this is me. Yeah. Nobody has to like what I say, but to me, it's more about money and more about making money than it is about any kind of. Although you do hear every once in a while, you hear a great song come through that just really tweaks your heart and says, "Man, you know, that's pretty cool." The young kids that are coming to town, these young artists that are out there, they're writing some great music. I've heard them. I've heard some stuff that does not make it to the radio stations.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. The best stuff doesn't.
The best stuff don't get there. It doesn't get there, and I know that they do it because I hear it, and I talk to these kids, and I hear what they're doing. But they, you know, it's almost like we want to go out and we want to make the money. This song's not going to make any money, so we're not going to put that out. And it's all about, to me, they glamorize some things that probably shouldn't be glamorized, and it's influencing our kids and our children that are growing up today. You know, that it's not all about going out and glamorizing, you know, drinking and all the other stuff that goes along with it. I mean, I was a kid once too. I got into all the stuff that I probably shouldn't have got into. But, you know, there needs to be warning signs out there to our children that hey, you know, you get out there, this isn't all right. This you should, you know, watch yourself and really take care of yourself, because you don't know what you're going to run up on out there in this world. And you really should be responsible for whatever you do, whether it's drinking, whether it's if you experiment with drugs or whatever, and you shouldn't do it, but most kids are gonna do that.
Yeah.
But instead of glamorizing it, they all say, hey, it don't always turn out this way.
Yeah.
It ain't always fun and games. It's not always, I had a great, you get up with a headache the next morning and say, what did I do last night? I mean, to me, that ain't no fun. To me, that's not.
And yet a continuing theme in country music for the better part of its history.
Yeah. So I'd say they're doing things to make money with it today, and I have a hard time with some of it. I just can't turn it on and listen to some of it. But every now and then a good song will slip through. I'll go, wow, I like that. I like that kid's voice, or I like that person singing. I like the music or whatever. But like I said, I write with some of them in town, and I hear what they're doing, and I said, why didn't that make it on your record? Why didn't it? Well, they didn't like it. They didn't want it. And so it's not the kid's fault. It's not the artist's fault. It's what, and they're doing it to make a living, and I understand that.
Yeah, it's a hard line because those writers have every right to be having a success and getting number ones.
Exactly.
The artists have every right to be having success and number ones.
Yeah.
But there's something missing.
Well, whenever, when I was starting over, about 50 years old even, I wondered, how am I going to make a living at this,
Yeah.
And
you go from the comfort of a nice band that's paying the bills.
And then my convictions wouldn't let me go to that, because I can write songs about those other things, but I made a choice right then, and I felt like I said, I'm 50 years old, I just literally asked God what do you want me to do, and then He starts giving me these little jewels here and there, these little messages that He wants me to come through me, and to say to people, and kind of using me as a tool, I guess, in which I'm happy that He's done that. And I'm kind of I listened to everything growing up, from everything from rock to country to bluegrass to gospel to disco to jazz to pop. I mean, I had to do it all because I was playing clubs, and so I had all these little influences in me. I love music. And I kind of keep an open mind about music.
And that comes through with what you do.
Yeah.
That it's not just the country. It's a genuine love of all things music.
Yeah. Well, I would say the Statler Brothers were Americana before Americana was even thought about.
Yeah.
They were nostalgic. They were historic. They were country. They were gospel.
Humorous.
They were humorous. They had it all kind of in one package. And when you listen to their stuff, you didn't go, "Hey, that's just a straight country George Jones song." It could have a little bit of something else in there that it's hard to explain. But it was those four guys, Harold, Phil, Don, and Lou, that started that stuff back in the early '60s. As a matter of fact, they started in '55, which is the year I was born. That's when it all started. And then of course Don came in 1964, and then they recorded Flowers on the Wall, and that kind of just really got it all started and how it all happened for them.
Huge. And
we were on Columbia Records, and then eventually then they didn't have a hit for a few years, and then all of a sudden Mercury picks them up. Jerry Kennedy starts producing them, and they start having hits again, and it just started blossoming, But when you go back and listen to the Statler Brothers songs, it's almost watching America grow up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good
their
way of
songs
putting
were.
it.
They were watching America grow up through the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and into the 90s. I mean, for all those decades.
To still be relevant in the first
and to
place.
still be, and like I said, I hope people never forget about the Statler Brothers, because if you go back and listen to those songs, right, and they even did a project called the Holy Bible, which is the Old Testament, New Testament. Some of those songs, and all the way from the beginning to the end, it was an amazing project. And of course, I wasn't on that stuff, but to me, it was some of the best stuff that you'll hear from the Statler Brothers. Was even before I came along, and I just came along to kind of help them make it to wherever that was they wanted to go to, and I felt honored to be there. But boy, I was a big fan of the early Statler Brothers stuff as well. So I understand what people say when they say, "Well, the Statler Brothers weren't quite the same." When you came along and as they were, and because we did change in a way, but I was happy to be a part of it. But I also understand before I came along, if you really delve into their songwriting and their songs, it was pretty incredible writing that went on. It really was.
Your new album is called God and Country, and people can get that online at all the digital places, as well as Cracker Barrel. Why does it always? I always forget the name. I was in one of their commercials, and I still forget the name of the place. How can people reach out with you to get you online?
Well, you go to jimmyfortune.com, which is simple as it can be.
Yeah.
You can see my tour schedule, and you can also get any of the product you want on there. Also, GaitherMusicGroup.com. You can go on there and get it as well. Of course, all the major markets: Walmart, Targets, Amazon, iTunes. It's out there everywhere.
You can't miss it. It's
No,
out there.
If it's a hard product like a CD with DVD will be coming soon,
Nice.
which will be a TV advertisement probably. You can still buy it on our website, but it'll be a TV offer. It was an emotional project, and it is God and Country all the way. And you can hear the emotion in my voice because it was a journey for me from my beginnings to where I'm at right now.
Nice. You're welcome here anytime. You want to come back and talk about stuff, we'll just talk.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on. And if it wasn't for people like you, I wouldn't have any reason to do what I do, and I thank you for that.
The feeling's mutual. Thanks for being here, Jim.
Thank you, Camo.
Thanks for watching the Nashville Access Facebook show with Camo and my special guest, Jimmy Fortune. We'll see you next time.